Minister for Health. And finally, Mr. Speaker, there is a report which is statutory, Section 11 of the Presidential Office Act of 1993. Within 3 months, the President must present to this House the list of presidential staffers, their title, their rank, and other staff at the Office of Government Machinery. That should have been brought before the end of March this year. We are in April. Does the Majority Leader have indication on when the report will be presented? Because as it is now, Section 11 of the Act is in breach by His Excellency the President. With all due respect, I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Order. Honourable Questioner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, to add to what my colleague had just mentioned in reference to the Health Minister, I think that the Health Minister must also be telling us what measures have been taken to address the CSM challenge that we have in the Upper West region, where 33 Ghanaians have lost their lives and over 200 are also in critical state. I think that it will be very critical and important for the Health Minister to really update us as to what measures have been taken in that direction. Mr. Speaker, the business statement read by the Majority Leader indicates that in the first paragraph that the Honourable it says that the meeting of Parliament held on Saturday, 4th April 2020, the Right Honourable Speaker suspended the first meeting indefinitely. Mr. Speaker, my understanding of a suspension will mean that the maize will be in a certain position, and I expected, Mr. Speaker, I expected that walking into this chamber, the maize would have even been here because we were on suspension. Whether it was indefinite or not, the maize should have been in a certain position even before we gathered in this chamber, but that was not the case. And I think that obviously is a novelty to me, since my days in this House and even before coming to Parliament, Mr. Speaker, my understanding of a suspension is for the maize to be a certain position. Mr. Speaker, again, when you look at the second paragraph, the Majority Leader makes reference to Order 6 of the Standing Orders and says that the Right Honourable Speaker subsequently directed that Parliament resumes sitting of the first meeting of the 4th session today. Mr. Speaker, that in itself is also another novelty, because we are being told we are not in normal times, and therefore we are doing things that are outside the standing orders, and we are being told that yes, the Speaker has the power. We are doing things rightly or wrongly. There are procedures to follow. The Majority Leader makes us understand that those procedures can be set aside as at when the House chooses. Mr. Speaker, I think that we need to reflect carefully on some of these things, because we will all not remain in this House forever. For some people, it is only 9 months they may have to continue in their position, be you a Majority Leader or not. Act as though we are demigods.
Honourable.
And let's not create the impression. Let's not create the impression that we know it all. Mr.
Speaker. Order. As we say in our local languages, we are all mindful of the fact that nobody remains salt on this earth. Thank you. We have had enough time. Honourable Majority Leader, you will reply. Those who are carrying their debates on various platforms may do so. Today is a special call. If you are not going to speak closely and in tandem with the business statement, please save us this morning. Honourable Majority Leader. Honourable Minority Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the business statement, as read by the majority leader, in my view, did not reflect what happened in the committee. Mr. Speaker, when it came to the issue of statement, in the business statement, in the business committee meeting, I drew the majority leader's attention that our standing orders and the statement do not require us to do anything. It's for information purposes. And Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I read the order 70 that majority leader is proposing that the finance minister comes on. And Mr. Speaker, 72, or maybe I'll even read from 1. Mr. Speaker may make statement on any matter of interest to the House. 2, a Minister of State may make an announcement or a statement of government policy. Any such announcement or statement should be limited to facts necessary to make known to the House and should not be designated or designed to provoke debate at this stage. So, Mr. Speaker, if the finance minister makes a statement, it will be difficult, as we are requesting that, via that, we'll refer it to a committee. And Mr. Speaker, what we need to properly do is under Order 75. And Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I read Order 74, 75. We lay the paper. So a paper may be laid by to the House only by Mr. Speaker, the chairman of a committee, a member, or a minister. And Mr. Speaker, the most important aspect is 75(2), where it says that as soon as sufficient copies are read, then the 2 says, if so desired by the person presenting the paper, a short explanatory statement may be made by him upon its presentation. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe that this is the right way, because when it is then laid, it will then be proper to then refer it to the committee to consider and report as we indicated this, in the business statement by, I think, paragraph 2B, second paragraph, as the statement is saying. But if we come by statement, the Speaker, statements are only for information purposes. So I think the right thing, I raised it at the business statement. I don't know why it was not proper captured when you say via a statement in the House. So we may have to do it properly. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Okuyeto Ablakwa drew attention to an outstanding matter relating to the Minister of Health. Speaker, I agree with him that we have that outstanding business. I tried to locate him, unfortunately. In fact, yesterday, I tried several times and I couldn't reach him. But I believe that it's a very germane matter that you've brought. And Speaker, we would have thought that even before we had the suspension, would have come before us to do the presentation. Unfortunately, we didn't get him. And as I said yesterday, I all do know the exigencies of the time. I don't know exactly where he was. I tried several times without success to reach him. Speaker, the other one relating to the presidential staffers. Speaker, I don't know whether anybody is in breach, but I do know that it's required to be submitted to the House. And the last time that I checked, I was apprised of the fact that it's being transmitted. I think that was mid-March. So I don't really know exactly where it is. But now that you've drawn attention, I'll follow through to see if it is hanging somewhere. But mid-March, I remember I raised this matter. So we'll follow through to see. The Speaker, the one matter raised by my colleague, the Honorable Kushiga, in respect of the CSM, yes, we are all shell-shocked to have heard from the Honorable Rashid Pepo the affliction that had happened to this nation in respect of those of them who had fallen victim. And as he said, I think it relates to a number of about 33 who had unfortunately transitioned. The Speaker, he indicated to us, the Honorable Rashid told us that over 200 people had contracted the disease, out of which 33 had unfortunately perished. What I didn't hear the Honorable Rashid people say was that the rest of them, the over 200, were in critical conditions. As my colleague is saying, he never said so in this house. When we listen, we must listen well. The Honorable Rashid people never told this house that the rest of the over 200 people are in critical condition. He never said so. Let's not embellish what we hear in this house. The Speaker, the Honorable Member, also, even though I thought he was going to address his mind to the business statement, because he stated this for the record in this house, it's important to relate to it. The Speaker, he made several allusions that people may stay in positions and positions are not forever. Everybody understands that. And every pupil in the primary school knows that. The Speaker, so he needed not to have belabored the point. But what is the fact of the matter? It says to us that the maize should have stayed in the stand. The Speaker, it's important to respond to that on this house, on this floor, because when a sitting is suspended, the maize remains in its hold. That is when a sitting, and a sitting relates to a day's sitting. When a meeting is suspended, as the Speaker said, there is no provision for it in the standing orders. Show me where. Show me where a meeting is suspended. Show me. Show me where a meeting is suspended. I will yield to you.
Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, so people can make their own statements. People can make their own statements that have no bearing in the standing orders.
Honorable
In fact,
you are entitled to say that you yield to a certain situation. And the honorable member is on his feet. Thank you for offering to yield. You will now yield. We will hear you, honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to humbly refer you to Order 46-2. And with your permission, I will read. The maize shall stand upright before the table during all sittings of the House, except during committees of the whole House or consideration stage or bills, when it shall be tilted. The maize, when it shall stand tilted, the maize shall not be removed from the table when the sitting of the House is suspended.
Order. Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, exactly what I was saying. People are entitled to their opinion. People are entitled to their opinion, but you are not entitled to your own set of facts. The Speaker, the suspension of the House that is alluded to in Order 46 relates to a sitting, a day's sitting, not a meeting. Not a meeting. That is what people don't understand. The Speaker, so people would apply themselves to the standing orders. The Speaker, indeed and in truth, whereas our orders provide for summoning of meetings, unfortunately, the orders don't provide for the dissolution, the adjournment of meetings. There is nowhere in the standing orders which relates to adjournment of meetings. It rather relates to adjournment of a sitting. That's the day's activity. And anybody can show indication that I'm wrong. People should apply themselves to the standing orders and read. That is it. Mr. Speaker, so it's not about owing, it's about reading to understand. It's about reading to understand. Mr. Speaker, so the other one relating, so Mr. Speaker committed no offense. Mr. Speaker committed no offense by the adjournment, by the suspension of the meeting, which is what he did. Mr. Speaker, the chief whip for the minority related to the procedure of the finance minister coming with a request. The Speaker, yes, we discussed this at the business committee, but Mr. Speaker, I do not see any reason to yield to what he was saying, because yes, he was saying that we should come by order 75, and the minister is not presenting a paper to us. He's not presenting a paper to us. The minister, the Speaker, I keep saying that if our committees were energized, if our committees were liberated and given sufficient muscle, this matter that we are going to attend today, that is the minister having the authority at the instance of the finance committee to assess funds from the contingency fund. The Speaker, if our committees were strong, or depending on how we would have built our committees, the minister could have touched base with the finance committee. But I do know that speakers have always insisted that referrals to committees should come from the chair. It is the reason why it was thought necessary for the Minister of Finance to come here and make the request, upon which the Speaker then will make the referral to the relevant committee, that is the Finance Committee, for them to give him authorization, and then subsequently what is required to be done will be done. So, Mr. Speaker, that is the position, and nothing untoward has been done by the proposal that has come before the House, as submitted by the Business Committee. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Leader. A minister is clearly, by the rules, entitled to make a presentation, deliver a paper at any time to the House of the People's Representatives. When any such paper is delivered, the Speaker may give directives accordingly. When we get to that bridge, we shall cross it accordingly. Honourable members, the business statement as presented is hereby admitted, and we shall proceed with our business. Item listed for so we shall please make a small adjustment in the order paper, and we shall call item 5 first for the presentation of papers. Honorable Finance Minister.
Budget Performance Report in respect of the Ministry of Finance for the period January to December 2019.
The Budget Performance Report in respect of the Ministry of Finance for the period January to December 2019 is duly presented, and it is referred to the Finance Committee for urgent consideration and report. The Honourable Minister of Finance will make a statement.
Mr. Speaker, let me first of all take this honorable members for sitting today. Mr. Speaker, on 27th March 2020, His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo delivered his fourth address on the coronavirus pandemic to the nation. In that address, Mr. Speaker, the President directed the Minister for Finance to prepare for approval by Parliament a coronavirus alleviation program, CAP, to mitigate the disruption to economic activities and the hardship imposed on the people of Ghana by the coronavirus pandemic, and to rescue and revitalize our industries that have fallen prey to the pandemic. The President further stated that the Minister for Finance will immediately make available a minimum of 1 billion Ghana cedis to households and businesses, particularly micro, small, and medium enterprises, as part of the initiative. Mr. Speaker, thereafter, on 30th March 2020, the Minister for Finance delivered a statement on the economic impact of the COVID-19 on the economy of Ghana to Parliament. The Minister also placed before Parliament a proposal that sought parliamentary approval to lower the cap on the Ghana Stabilization Fund, GSF, from $300 million to US $100 million, and to transfer the excess amount of $290 million over and above the newly proposed cap to the contingency fund to finance the coronavirus alleviation program. Mr. Speaker, I wish to express our profound gratitude to Parliament for working expeditiously to approve the proposal to lower the cap on the Ghana Stabilization Fund from $300 million to US $100 million. This has enabled us to transfer the CD equivalent of $219 million, that is Ghana 1,203 million cedis, into the contingency fund. Mr. Speaker, the pandemic continues to rage, and yesterday the world recorded the largest number of deaths in a day of 1,850 people in America and the United States. Mr. Speaker, a number of Ghanaians have also died in Ghana and in foreign countries, including Mr. Micah J., former employee of the Daily Graphic and State Hotels. May their souls, Mr. Speaker, rest in perfect peace. Mr. Speaker, since we came to Parliament on Monday, March 30th, the global number of cases have soared from 693,282 to 1,279,722, with 72,614 deaths. In Ghana, Mr. Speaker, we have 287 cases as of April 6, with 5 deaths. Greater Accra, 258, Ashanti Region, 18, Northern Region, 10, Upper West, 1, Upper East, 1, and Eastern Region, 1. Mr. Speaker, it is this apocalypse that the President has sworn to avert from our land. His Excellency deeply believes, like our noble statesman Dr. J.B. Dankwa said, that we, the citizens of Ghana, are all Adishia royals. He will therefore use our resources to protect and ensure the sanctity of every life of every citizen. Mr. Speaker, in his fifth address to the nation on 5th April 2020, which focused on Ghana's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, His Excellency the President outlined a number of reliefs for Ghanaians as part of the measures that government has planned to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Speaker, the coronavirus alleviation program will primarily support provision of food and water for households and sanitation, 2, relief for health sector workers who are modern-day protectors and soldiers against this unseen enemy, and 3, soft loans for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises to alleviate the disruption of our business people, informal, who represent 90% of our employees. Mr. Speaker, the President's address calmed the nation, removed any premonition of sinking into a Dante's Inferno, and reassured us that we indeed have a wartime leader, Moses, to lead us to our promised land. A leader one can trust, a leader whom we can pray and work with, a leader who turned this misadventure into a new and vibrant industrial landscape. But all of us, Mr. Speaker, as citizens, must pull in one direction. We must hold up his hands to inspire us to defeat this virus. The Lord will make a way in this desert as he unfolds a new thing for the nation as promised in Isaiah 43. Mr. Speaker, at the end of this trauma and pandemic, we should have reinforced our identity as a nation that cares, a nation that visits the fatherless, widows, and portraits the poor and vulnerable. That is our most sacred duty and responsibility, beyond the cold calculus of the economics. Mr. Speaker, consistent with Article 177, Clause 1 of the 1992 Constitution, I am by this presentation submitting a request to the Finance Committee to grant us the authorization to assess the requisite amounts from the contingency fund to confront the challenge that has engulfed the nation in this matter of the COVID-19 affliction. Mr. Speaker, following this, the Ministry will take steps going forward to do the needful. Mr. Speaker, these are extraordinary and sobering times, and we must respond with a deep sense of social justice so that our very humanity is not compromised. Mr. Speaker, permit me to end with Parliament's own prayer. God grant us a vision of our country, a country of righteousness. May God also inspire and strengthen all of our people that we may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. May all of us, Mr. Speaker, humble ourselves in prayer and gratitude for the Lord's sacrifice on this coming Good and Holy Friday. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may God bless and spare our nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The paper is duly referred to the Finance Committee. Order. Honorable members, the paper is formally referred to the Finance Committee for consideration and report. Meeting is suspended for now until you hear the bell when the Finance Committee has finished its work. Sitting is suspended accordingly. We urge the Finance Committee to Honorable members, we shall end the business for today and await further developments.
Suspend the meeting indefinitely.
The meeting is accordingly suspended indefinitely. Thank you very much.
All right, so we brought you what happened in Parliament when Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta presented to the House government's plan to alleviate the effects of coronavirus on the economy, on vulnerable people, among others. And government calls it the Coronavirus Alleviation Program. So that's what Ken Ofori-Atta outlined in Parliament today. Of course, following up to the President's address announcing the relief for health workers, food to the vulnerable, and also support for SMEs. I'm in the studio with Godfred Akutubuafo, Head of Current Affairs. We were monitoring that presentation together. Godfred, so what stood out? We're expecting a breakdown of the various amounts in this contingency fund, but that didn't happen. What stood out for you?
Well, if you look at the notice put out by the Speaker of Parliament yesterday in recalling Parliament, I'll just read portions of it. It did say that the Finance Minister is scheduled to present a policy statement to the House in accordance with Standing Order 70, Subclause 2, on matters relating to government measures to curb the spread of the coronavirus disease, as well as facilitate the transaction of any urgent business. So, amongst other things, we were expecting to hear some details. But one thing about Parliament also is perhaps these details have been presented in full to the Finance Committee, because the presence of the Finance Minister today was to also seek authorization from the Finance Committee on the willingness to access the contingency funds that have been put in place. Now, if you recall, we have accessed some $35 million from the World Bank. He's asked for a lowering of the cap on the stabilization fund. So he has some $200 million there as well. So quite a lot of money has been pulled together to help government alleviate Ghanaians in this period when we are fighting the pandemic. So we will check later from Parliament if perhaps the documentation that has been presented to the Finance Committee for approval will have the breakdown. Maybe he didn't go through it publicly, but the process that Parliament allows is what he did. So there might be a policy paper therein that was not addressed publicly, but will be in the possession of the Finance Committee, because they are the ones who have to grant their approval. And to grant their approval, they will just not need a one-page statement from the Minister of Finance. They will need some sort of breakdown. So hopefully later in the day we should get some more information on what exactly the full context of the documentation that was brought by Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to Parliament contained.
But the work of the Finance Committee on the document, is it at that time that we'll have the final approval to give the 50% allowance to the health workers to start feeding? Because we know that, for instance, the food for the vulnerable, it has already started.
Yes.
So is this illegal backing? What exactly is this process seeking to achieve?
Well, so far that is what we do not know yet. And it is the documentation that will tell us where the money is coming from and going where. Because, for instance, if you talk about the food for the vulnerable, we also do know that funds have accrued from donations that have been made from the general public. The last time the President spoke, those funds stood at almost 9 million Ghana cedis. Now, we passed the COVID Trust Bill to allow for the trustees of that particular, to give legal backing for the trustees of that particular fund. So it's not like there isn't money outside of what Parliament is giving. There is money out there that is being utilized for this. But this money is significant because this is what will be used for economic stimulus packages and focusing on other segments of the economy. That is why it is key. So it will be important, and I'm sure later we'll hear from Duke Mensah Opoku when he gives us more background as to what exactly has been presented, the documentation that has been presented to the Finance Committee. I think that is where we will get the full force of what Ken Ofori-Atta went to do in Parliament from.
I know one of the things you particularly are looking forward to is the issue of the package for SMEs. What are you expecting in terms of how this fund will be assessed by the various SMEs? Exactly
that, the distribution model. Now, we've had various ideas have come. Some have said we should use the LEAP. We also know that the MBSSI via the Ministry of Trade and Industry have also come into the matter. And for instance, the Ministry of Trade and Industry have said that for SMEs that want to access this, you must show books. That is, you must show that your accounts are up to date, your taxes are up to date, because government is not going to give you public funds when your books are a mess and you probably
and you don't pay taxes.
You don't pay taxes. You have a history of basically wasting money. That will not be the way to use this money, especially in these hard times. And so all those modalities will be set out in this particular documentation, and I'm sure we'll get a bit of information on this going forward. I'm sure by the end of the week at least, those in that particular space who will be able to access the stimulus packages will have a fair idea of where they can reach it. But the ideas keep getting shared. There are those who have suggested the use of the mobile money system because now we have a significant number of people in that particular value chain. There are those who have suggested we use Maslock. All kinds of ideas have been suggested.
But then there's a problem with Maslock because the concern has been that most of the funds go to people affiliated to one party or the other. So using Maslock to disperse this fund in this pandemic period is going to be problematic.
Well, this is where the call for the greater persons in us will emerge. And we've heard the government say that this is not a partisan call, this is a national call. And we have seen that in some of the actions that have been taken. This will not be the time to change that tune. This is far too important because there are certain industries that if you are going to get the economy to all kinds of trouble. So I do not expect this particular concern to arise.
All right, thank you very much. That's Godfrey Akoto Boafo. He's head of current affairs here at City TV and City FM. My name is Abnanya Mechampedi. We brought you a live coverage of the Finance Minister's presentation of the Coronavirus Alleviation Program to Parliament. The House has been suspended indefinitely and the statement has been referred to the Finance Committee of Parliament for further deliberations. Stay tuned to City TV. At 3 p.m. we'll bring you a special COVID-19 coverage. Do stay with us. Thank you for watching.